What is up, my cutouts cardboard ninja here, coming at you with the next dev vlog. You know what time it is. We're at the end of, or the denouement of the released battle pass, which means it's time to get you hyped for the next battle pass. So, new leaks from the devs. Looks like there's going to be a new legendary cabin. Very interesting indeed. This is going to be a light cabin whose perk is going to increase the penetration of your weapons. I think it does it passively, and then also it charges up for whatever reason. And when it's activated, it can increase your penetration to even over 100%. Now, I have absolutely no idea what that means. I'm going to assume. I can't even assume. I have no idea what that's supposed to do. Like, does that mean that the more things you hit, the more damage you deal? Like, you want to have a lot of stuff in the way of the shot? I'm not sure. However, they do allude to saying that this cabin will work best with some sort of sniper weapon. Hint, scorpions. They're actually calling out scorpions. And they're also dropping another hint for another weapon that most likely will be dropped in this update. Who knows? Maybe the Ravagers will provide something suitable. You know what also, like, this would completely rape with? Oh, I don't know. The commit? How about the fucking commit? A weapon whose actual perk is to do even more damage to, things that it's trying to penetrate through. So, I don't know. I don't think that's a good combo. Well, I mean, I think it's going to be too good of a combo indeed. I believe that they're probably going to end up nerfing the commit. I mean, let's be real. Once this is no longer available for cash money dollars, expect the commit and expect the other guns and things like that in the battle pass to get nerfed, as you know they will. Moving right along, there's going to be a new legendary shotgun continuing the Gremlin and the Goblin line, and this one's actually kind of cool. I mean, it is cool in its design. The idea is that it is combining the melee aspect of lances with the shotguns. The idea is you shoot people with shotguns enough, and then it charges those spikes, and the spikes become high explosive devices, and you can ram people with them. I don't know if that's going to be meta. I know that there's going to be a couple of troll builds out there. I think that the way that you charge it isn't good because, usually you want the contact points to be ready on arrival. So I guess it means that you would have to pound one guy out, and then after that guy's dead, you use your spikes to go to the next guy. By the way, should have mentioned this. It's gonna be a Ravager season, so that's the theme. We're going from Founders back to Ravagers, and guess what's here? New effing frames, y'all. New frames. This looks. You're like, what is this? 2x6? No, this is a 2x5. Not exactly the most, exciting thing to look at, but you know what is 2x2. Tiny little square frames. That's actually pretty sexy. And this is, I'm not even going to lie to you, this is the most exciting thing that I've seen. This is, I believe, 3 by 6. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 8. Holy shit. Like, this is going to be this is a good frame right here. This is a good frame. These L-shaped frames, oh yeah, that's where it's at. That's sexy. These tiny little frames, that's cool. This is cool. There's a reason why this is cool. So certain movement parts, like small tracks, you don't really need very much frame to attach a small track to. And you might be thinking, well, more track is more hit points. Yeah, kind of sometimes. But if the movement part has enough hit points, the movement part actually protects the frame. But if the frame sticks out, then the frame can get hit and be destroyed and actually take the movement part with it. You can hide your movement parts with small frame pieces. And then, of course, here's the 5 by lightweight. For some reason, these are down here. That's pretty cool stuff. Can't wait to see the new frame, honestly. Back to the cabin, I think that I don't know. I think this is just gonna get some of our shit nerfed. I mean, it's gonna happen. Everyone knows it's gonna happen. Once the battle pass is no longer for sale, that stuff's getting nerfed. At most 2 months later. But yeah, this looks a lot like the Dead Man cabin in shape and size, but I think this is actually symmetrical. Based on my guesstimations, that's like, 1, 4, 1, so that's 6 wide, and it looks like it's 4 tall. So it's a standard cabin with probably ass weld points, which is fine. But yeah, no, it's the new Scorp cabin. So if you've got Scorps, well, this cabin's for you. And guess what? I bet the price of the Scorpion is going to go up just because of this cabin. I mean, I miss having my scorpions already just because of the fact that this thing is promising even greater penetration, over 100% penetration. Like the only way that can even math out is if if a weapon, if a part is destroyed, whatever's left of the damage would be increased by whatever percentage above 100 that was left. That's the only way I can imagine that. So again, let's assume that you have a weapon that does 1,000. We're just going to pretend. Obviously, we have like the commit that does 700, but we're just going to say it does 1,000, and it hits a part, and that part, let's just say, has 500 hit points. So it'll hit it. It'll do 500. Now 500 damage is exiting, but let's assume that you have 120% penetration. 20% of 500 is somewhere in the neighborhood of like what, 100. So instead, it'll be 600 damage that comes out to the next part. And that's what I'm assuming. Again, I'm pretty good at guessing game mechanics at this point. You guys should know that by now. I mean, I've pretty much guessed every single game mechanic dead ass on before it was released. And I mean, I'm not saying that I'm entirely correct on this, but that's how I imagine that math would work out. I do not have any fucking clue how this would work with scorpions. None. I have no idea. Because again, scorpions are on their own unique kick right now. The way that they used to work was the first part took 100%, and the next pin, if it was a different part, would take 90%, and so on and so forth until you reached the 7-pin rule. So you'd get 70% damage reduction on your shot. That's how the original scorpions would have worked. But now scorpions do a overflow weirdness damage thing. So if you shoot the first part, but it's ultra durable like a track, then it'll penetrate, but it won't do anything. Like it will do like jack shit damage, like 30 something damage per scorpion will penetrate through an armored track. So total ass, which is kind of the opposite of what scorpions used to be. They used to be an ultra penetrator. But I have absolutely no idea how that would work here. Like if this worked similarly, let's just pretend that my previous mechanic guess was correct, and this worked with scorpions similarly, it would mean that scorpions would be unbalanced, is the best way to put it. I think that would mean a scorpion could punch through your entire build, because if it hits anything other than like a freight train plow or a track, it means that the scorpion is going to continue on. And if it overpins and you have over 100% penetration, you get a refund on that damage, right? Again, assuming you get 120%, it would mean that whatever's left after the overflow of the first part would then be increased by 20%, but the damage was going to overflow anyway because the scorpion, yada, yada, yada. You get the idea. So it would mean that you could like punch through whole builds with this cabin combined with a scorpion. That's my guess. I'm not overhyping it. I'm not saying it's gonna happen that way, but based on how I would guess the game mechanic would function, that's what would happen. The commit, by the way, is very interesting. I'll just tell you guys this now. The commit uses a very interesting formula. It goes a little something like this. You multiply its damage by 1.8, and then if it hits a part like a cabin or a weapon, then you divide the damage by 1.8. So the basic damage of the commit is somewhere in here like 1,800 flying down range. And it is treated as 1,800 as it penetrates through parts. So let's assume you hit 6 parts, and none of those parts are modules or cabin, right? Well, then it's just 1,800 divided by, bam, like not divided by 1,800, subtracting its way through all of those parts that it slams through. And if it ends up hitting a cabin at the end of going through those 8 parts, you then divide whatever's left by 1.8, and that's the damage that's left over. So that's how the commit deals damage. But with this, that would be ridiculous. Like, this would be ridiculous. Like, breaking that high penetration. By the way, just so you know, Avalanche is actually a very high penetrating weapon. Like, I think the penetration on Avalanche is like 96% or something like that. I think it's like high 80s, and then if it's fused for penetration, it's like 90s. And, that's a lot, considering it does like 500 bullet. So even though I don't want to count the Avalanche out, is what I'm saying, though I don't know if this new cabin's going to have the mass for that. I've been speaking about this new cabin a bunch, but I don't know. Like, honestly, I have not seen very many of these front-facing shotgun builds recently. They fell off, right? This is due to reasons myriad. Lack of hit scan, weird mounting positions, difficult building, so you don't end up flagging your own build. The current shotguns kind of suck because they have the ability to do melee damage, but not really. Things like that. I don't see the functioning of these guns. these Ravager shotguns. I don't see the functioning of them being overly interesting because it looks and they look like they operate exactly like current shotguns. Like the current Goblin Gremlin line. The only difference is after you shoot enough, you get little spikes that glow on the front of your build, so that you can try and ram into someone for some explosive damage. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to. How do I put this? There are some really creative players in this game that take melee to the next level. So I'm not going to say that they're useless. Not yet. I know that melee weapons in like this, or at least the melee weapon perk like this, can be kind of iffy based on the fact that you don't really see lances anymore, right? You don't see lances, you don't see booms, you don't see lancelots. And to that end, you also don't see very many tusk cabins left in the wasteland. There are a couple of hangers on, and they're pretty good, but I don't know. I'm just not necessarily feeling this one. This feels kind of like a pass weapon, kind of like the shotgun that's in the current battle pass. By the way, funny story. If you're looking to make money, I have a feeling that crafting the shotgun in the current battle pass is probably the way to go. If they ever release a new relic, it's going to probably use that. The only reason why I'm not saying that I have any insider information, I don't. But what I've noticed is that the legendary, whenever they produce a legendary that is extraordinarily lackluster and it's not produced, they either buff it in a way that makes it so everyone wants it, but there aren't any in the economy, or they make it part of a recipe for something else. And the greatest examples that I can give of that would be the scam wind. I'm sorry, still wind. Basically, a mediocre, if not shit, autocannon release, and nobody built it, nobody had it, and then they buffed it, nobody wanted it, and they buffed it again, nobody wanted it, and they buffed it a third time, and then people started wanting it, and then they combined it when the Catalina was released, and then they were like, oh, we need it to make this Catalina combo, jerk, 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 all that shit like that, and then there were none in the market, and the price skyrocketed over 10k. I think it was the first legendary to get to like 10,000 because of the fact that it was just rare, right? And so the current shotgun that's in the battle pass, and maybe even this shotgun after it, may end up in the same boat where, people just don't make it because it doesn't look, it just sucks, right? People are using the compiler, that was the name of the cannon that's released in the current battle pass, and they're using the commit, and I can see why, because the compiler is actually busted. I know that it's not as strong as the commit, so they kind of released them in the wrong order, in my opinion. But even though the compiler is not as strong as the commit, the compiler is by far and away, I think, it's like, I'm not even going to say I think, I know it is pound for pound the strongest cannon, and that includes over the avalanche. If you can fire 2 commits and hit all 6 shots on the same target, the damage is actually pretty dang devastating. Like, you do more damage with 1 compiler than you do with 2 mammoths. No joke. That's insane damage. That's a lot of damage. So, that's just food for thought, but they'll probably end up nerfing all that stuff after it's no longer with cash money dollar hose. And of course, because of the fact the commit is so good, there's going to be a lot of them in the market, and so therefore in the future, they're not going to use it for whatever battle pass crafting bullshit or any future recipes, but they will use that shotgun. Just putting it out there. I know that that's not necessarily about this, but yeah. So this is going to be interesting. Expect scorpions to punch through your whole build in the future, and then they're going to nerf it because it won't be for money. Another weapon that you're never going to see in the wasteland, this legendary shotgun. And you will see these frames. These frames, by the way, amazing. Goddamn amazing. So, last thing I'm going to say, because I don't want to waste any of your time, these 5x frames are great for asymmetrical cabins like the Dead Man. The Dead Man suffers so much because the frame that you get is, even numbered. 6 long or 6 wide, as you want to put it. Those end up being just too long, and they end up popping out the other side, and then you end up having to put something on the other side of the Dead Man to try and balance it out. And even then, it's still, awkward. But once you have odd number frame, that's awesome. And of course, these sick frames are sick. This is exactly this is what you want. This is what you want in Crossout, because right now people are doing this anyway, right? People are doing this, but it takes 2 parts. Now they're just tied together. Like, this is a thing. You can do this now, and people are doing this now, but it's not nearly as good as having it available in one singular part. Anywho, discussions below. Let me know. Thank you guys for joining me. I can't wait to see Dev Vlog Part